In landscapes where water disappears, survival is decided long before hunger or predators arrive. It is decided by distance, memory, and time. The desert does not attack. It waits. It stretches the land until every step costs more than the one before, until movement itself becomes a test of endurance. Here, size offers no protection and strength provides no shortcuts. What matters is knowing where life once existed and whether that knowledge is still true. Paths remembered across decades can become dead ends overnight. In this environment, hesitation wastes energy and certainty can be fatal. Every journey begins with an assumption that water will be found where it has always been. The desert offers no confirmation. It only observes the choice and measures the consequences in silence. Northern Namibia is a land shaped by absence. Rain arrives rarely and without warning, sometimes missing entire seasons. Rivers exist mostly as memory-wide channels of sand and stone that carry water only a few days each year, then return to silence. Between these dry riverbeds stretch gravel plains, rocky outcrops, and open desert where shade is scarce and distances are deceptive. What appears close can take days to reach. What sustained life one year may vanish the next. Temperatures here routinely climb above 40 degrees Celsius. Evaporation outpaces rainfall. Vegetation survives only by adapting to long intervals of drought, producing sparse leaves, deep roots, or seasonal growth that lasts just weeks. For large animals, survival depends on movement. Remaining in one place guarantees dehydration. Migration is not optional. It is continuous. Water sources are scattered and unstable. Some form briefly after distant storms. Others lie hidden beneath sand, accessible only to animals strong enough to dig deep into dry riverbeds. These locations shift over time, altered by erosion, flooding, and years of heat. No permanent map exists. Instead, survival relies on patterns remembered across generations, roots passed down. Timing refined through experience and decisions made without certainty. In this environment, mistakes are rarely immediate. Dehydration unfolds slowly, weakening muscles, dulling senses, and reducing the ability to travel further. There are no sudden collapses, no dramatic warnings. The desert applies pressure evenly and patiently, rewarding accuracy and punishing delay. Life here does not respond to effort or intention. It responds only to alignment with conditions that are constantly changing. Among the species that endure this environment, none appears more out of place than the desert elephant. Its size suggests abundance. Its mass implies security. Yet here those traits become liabilities. An adult elephant requires vast quantities of water each day, far more than the desert can reliably provide. Survival depends not on strength, but on judgment. The individual at the center of this movement is fully grown, its body marked by years of travel. The skin is thick and dust-covered, the ears torn at the edges from heat and wind. Its pace is deliberate, conserving energy with every step. This elephant does not wander. Its direction is fixed, guided by roots learned over decades. In this landscape, such knowledge carries weight equal to physical power. This individual occupies a critical role within the group. Others follow at measured distances, adjusting their pace to match its decisions. The route it chooses determines how far they must travel, where they will rest, and whether water will be found in time. There is no visible signal of leadership, no commands, no displays, only movement that others align with. Biologically, the elephant is adapted for long-distance travel. Its feet distribute weight across soft sand. Its trunk detects faint traces of moisture in dry ground. Its memory stores details of terrain and water sources across vast areas. But these adaptations rely on information that may no longer be accurate. Rivers shift, waterholes collapse, seasonal patterns fail. Here, experience is both an advantage and a risk. The same memory that once ensured survival can now lead the group toward emptiness. The desert does not adjust for age or success. It tests every decision as if it were being made for the first time. The movement begins before the heat fully settles over the land. In the early hours, when shadows still stretch across the gravel plains, the group advances at a steady, unhurried pace. Each step presses into sand that will soon erase the trace. There is no urgency yet. Energy is conserved, not spent. In this environment, speed wastes water. Feeding occurs in motion. Sparse shrubs, dry grasses, and low branches provide limited nutrition, but stopping for long periods is avoided. The elephants strip bark where it is available, pull at tough vegetation with practiced efficiency, and move on. What little moisture exists in these plants contributes marginally to hydration, but it is never enough to replace water. The purpose of feeding here is maintenance, not recovery. Rest comes in brief intervals. During the hottest part of the day, movement slows further. The group clusters loosely, bodies angled to minimize exposure. Ears fan steadily, releasing heat through thin skin stretched with veins. Dust coats their backs, acting as a partial barrier against the sun. These behaviors are not conscious strategies. They are automatic responses shaped by generations that survive by doing the same. Calves remain close to larger bodies. Their strides are shorter, their endurance limited. When they tire, they lean into the sides of adults, matching pace by proximity rather than strength. No assistance is given beyond space and protection. There is no stopping for weakness. The group moves at a speed that reflects the balance between those that can travel far and those that cannot. As evening approaches, the temperature drops slightly, allowing longer stretches of movement. Distances covered during these hours are critical. Every kilometer gained now reduces exposure tomorrow. Direction remains constant. The route does not deviate toward visible landmarks or opportunistic feeding grounds. The objective lies beyond immediate sight, defined by memory rather than observation. At night, activity diminishes. The group rests where it stands, often in open terrain, where visibility is unobstructed. Sleep is shallow and brief. The desert offers no concealment and no shelter. Stillness conserves energy, but complete immobility risks cooling too rapidly. Bodies shift, trunks lift ears, mashma. Awareness never fully recedes. This pattern repeats across days. Movement feeding rest and continued movement form a rhythm that appears stable. Nothing yet suggests failure. The group advances, distances accumulate, and fatigue remains manageable. Water is not present, but it is expected. The route has delivered before. Confidence is not expressed, but it is implied by consistency. From a distance, the journey appears controlled. There are no signs of distress, no visible collapse. The desert does not announce its danger early. It allows routine to establish itself, encouraging reliance on patterns that once worked. Survival here often ends not with panic, but with normalcy continuing too long. The balance is fragile, but intact. For now, movement aligns with expectation. The elephants follow a path etched not into the land, but into memory. Each step assumes the next will still be possible. Each day unfolds like the one before, uninterrupted, convincing in its repetition. The desert remains unchanged. It does not respond to progress or effort. It allows the rhythm to continue, waiting for the moment when repetition is no longer enough. Gradually, the environment begins to demand more. The mornings grow warmer sooner, compressing the hours when movement is efficient. Night offers less recovery than before. Heat lingers in the ground, radiating upward, long after the sun has dropped below the horizon. The group adjusts without pause, extending travel into hours that were once reserved for rest. The landscape ahead changes subtly. Vegetation thins further, and familiar markers become less frequent. Dry riverbeds widen their sandy floors, broken by hardened crusts that resist digging. When the group pauses at one of these channels, The leading elephant tests the ground with its trunk probing for moisture that once lingered beneath the surface. The sand yields nothing. After a brief delay, movement resumes. Distances between expected water points increase. What was once a single day's travel stretches into 2. The group compensates by reducing stops, shortening feeding periods, and maintaining direction even when terrain becomes more difficult. Rocky sections slow progress, forcing careful foot placement that consumes energy. Detours are avoided. Every deviation risks adding kilometers that cannot be afforded. Physiological strain becomes visible in small ways. Breathing deepens. Rest intervals lengthen slightly, though never enough to restore strength fully. Calves lag more often, requiring frequent adjustments in pace. Adults close ranks around them, not to protect from predators, but to shield them from direct exposure to heat and wind. This formation costs energy, but separation would cost more. The leading elephant revisits sites remembered from previous seasons. These locations once held shallow pools or damp sediment long after surface water disappeared. Now, they are empty. Erosion has altered the channels. Floods from distant storms have redistributed sand and stone, collapsing access points that were reliable years ago. Memory provides coordinates, but the terrain no longer matches the record. Despite these changes, the route remains unchanged. Turning back would offer no advantage. Alternative paths would require equal or greater distances with no guarantee of success. Forward movement becomes the only option, not because it promises survival, but because it avoids immediate failure. Water loss accelerates invisibly. Sweat evaporates before it can be noticed. Moisture escapes through respiration, untracked and continuous. The group compensates by traveling more slowly, but slower movement increases exposure time. Each adjustment solves one problem while deepening another. There are still no dramatic signs, no collapse, no sudden panic. Pressure accumulates quietly, expressed through repetition rather than crisis. Days pass with progress measured against expectation, and expectation increasingly fails to align with reality. The desert offers no feedback. It neither confirms nor denies the decisions being made. It allows effort to continue uninterrupted, permitting the journey to extend beyond its safe limits without resistance. By the time the imbalance becomes obvious, options will have already narrowed. The group advances under conditions that no longer match the assumptions guiding them. Memory continues to direct movement, but the environment has shifted beyond its accuracy. What once functioned as a reliable guide now leads through territory stripped of the resources it depended on. Still, the movement continues. Stopping would change nothing. The path ahead remains the only path left. The first signs appear not as sudden events, but as absences. Water points that should interrupt the journey do not. The ground shows no darkening, no lingering dampness beneath the surface. Channels that once slowed the group with soft sediment now support their weight without resistance. Each expected delay becomes a brief stop, then a continuation forward. Fatigue begins to express itself unevenly. Adult elephants maintain pace through habit and size, but calves struggle to match the rhythm. Their strides shorten. They pause more often, lowering their heads, as if searching for relief in the sand. When they rise again, movement resumes without ceremony. There is no reassessment of direction, only a recalibration of spacing. The group's formation tightens. Individuals reduce lateral movement, aligning directly behind the leader to conserve energy and limit exposure. This alignment narrows their awareness of the surrounding landscape. Peripheral opportunities for shade or feeding are ignored in favor of maintaining momentum. Direction becomes more important than observation. Heat exerts a constant influence. Body temperatures rise earlier in the day and decline more slowly at night. Recovery remains incomplete. Muscles stiffen after rest, requiring longer warm-up periods before full movement resumes. These delays compound across days, adding time to each segment of travel. Attempts to locate moisture become more frequent. At dry river crossings, several elephants dig simultaneously, enlarging pits that once yielded water. Trunks probe deeper, scattering sand and stone, but the effort produces only dust. These stops consume energy without return. After each failure, departure becomes quieter, more deliberate. One calf falls behind beyond the threshold of tolerance. It stops moving entirely, standing alone for several moments before an adult positions itself beside it. The delay lasts less than a minute. The group does not regroup. The calf resumes movement, but its pace is reduced. From this point forward, its position remains near the rear. No predators appear. The absence is notable. Carnivores avoid areas where large herbivores struggle with dehydration, conserving their own energy rather than risking confrontation. Danger here is not external. It emerges from within the journey itself. Distances covered each day begin to shrink despite increased effort. The route demands more while offering less. Rest periods grow longer yet provide diminishing benefit. Every behavior that once sustained the group now functions at reduced efficiency. The leading elephant continues forward without visible hesitation. Its movement suggests certainty, but certainty is no longer supported by results. Memory directs the group toward locations that exist only in past seasons. Each failure weakens the alignment between expectation and reality. By now, the cost of error has become measurable. Energy reserves decline. Hydration levels drop below sustainable thresholds. The group remains intact, but its margin has narrowed. One further miscalculation will not require dramatic conditions to produce loss. The desert has not changed its behavior. It has simply allowed the consequences of persistence to unfold. As the journey extends beyond its expected limits, strain becomes continuous rather than episodic. There are no longer moments of recovery between demands. Each day begins where the previous one ended, with fatigue carried forward rather than resolved. Movement persists, but its quality changes. Steps lose uniformity. Pauses lengthen without producing rest. The terrain ahead offers little variation. Open stretches expose the group to uninterrupted heat, while rocky sections force slower progress that increases time under stress. The choice between speed and stability disappears. Every option extracts a cost. Detours that might offer shade require additional distance. Direct routes conserve kilometers, but provide no relief. The group remains committed to efficiency, even as efficiency becomes insufficient. Water-seeking behavior intensifies. Dry riverbeds are approached with urgency now, rather than routine. Digging begins immediately, without the exploratory hesitation seen earlier. Multiple individuals excavate simultaneously, creating wide pits that once would have reached damp sediment within minutes. Now they deepen without result. The effort continues longer each time, before abandonment draining strength in exchange for nothing. Physical decline becomes visible across the group. Skin loses elasticity. Movement stiffens at the joints. Ears fan more frequently, but the cooling effect diminishes as dehydration progresses. Respiration deepens, increasing water loss with every breath. These changes do not halt movement, but they reduce tolerance for error. Minor obstacles become significant. Small rises in terrain require pauses that were unnecessary days before. Calves now struggle to remain upright during rest periods. When they lie down, rising again requires assistance from surrounding bodies. Adults adjust formation instinctively, not to comfort but to maintain cohesion. Separation would mean abandonment. Cohesion, however, slows the group further, forcing compromises in pace that strain all members. Losses begin subtly. One juvenile fails to keep pace and remains behind after a prolonged rest. The group continues forward unaware at first. Distance accumulates quickly in open terrain. By the time the absence is noticed, turning back would expend more energy than the group can afford. The movement does not reverse. The space once occupied by that individual closes without acknowledgement. No single event marks the transition from endurance to decline. The shift is gradual, expressed through repetition. Each failure to locate water compounds the last. Each kilometer requires more effort than the one before. The group advances under conditions that would have demanded retreat earlier, but retreat is no longer an option. The leading elephant continues to navigate by memory, adjusting routes based on landmarks that have changed shape or position. Hills eroded by wind appear flatter. Channels carved by floods no longer match stored patterns. Decisions are made quickly now, not because clarity has increased, but because delay consumes energy that cannot be replaced. Encounters with potential relief end repeatedly in disappointment. Shaded areas provide temporary cooling, but no hydration. Vegetation offers fiber, but no moisture. The environment supplies fragments of support, never enough to restore balance. Each partial solution delays collapse without preventing it. Fatigue spreads unevenly. Some individuals adapt by reducing movement, conserving what remains. Others push harder, attempting to compensate for weakness within the group. These conflicting strategies create irregular pacing that increases overall inefficiency. Coordination becomes more difficult to maintain. The desert exerts pressure without escalation. It does not intensify conditions or introduce new threats. It simply maintains the same constraints long enough for cumulative damage to become decisive. Survival now depends less on navigation and more on endurance beyond sustainable limits. By this stage, the outcome no longer hinges on a single correct choice. Even accurate navigation cannot restore what has been lost. The group moves forward because stopping would guarantee failure, not because movement promises success. The threat is no longer distant or abstract. It is embedded in every action. Every pause risks not resuming. Every step costs more than it returns. The journey continues under its own momentum, driven by the absence of alternatives. What remains is a narrowing corridor of possibility. Ahead lies either relief that must arrive soon or conditions that will exceed what the group can endure. The desert does not signal which awaits. It allows the process to continue unchanged until the limit is reached. The moment arrives without ceremony. There is no clear marker, no dramatic shift in the land to announce it. The group simply reaches a place where every remaining option carries the same consequence. Distance behind them now exceeds what weakened bodies can retrace. Distance ahead remains uncertain. The balance between choice and necessity collapses into a single direction. The route narrows into open ground with little variation. Shade disappears almost entirely. The soil hardens, reflecting heat rather than absorbing it. Movement slows further not from deliberation, but from physical limitation. Muscles respond late. Coordination dulls. The group remains intact, but cohesion demands constant adjustment. The leading elephant pauses at a familiar landmark, a rise in the terrain that once marked the final approach to water. From here, memory predicts relief within a day's travel. The pause is brief. There is no inspection of alternatives, no exploration outward. Time does not allow for searching. Movement resumes along the expected line. Hours pass without change. The land ahead remains uniform, offering no indication of proximity to water. The heat intensifies as the sun reaches its highest point. Respiration deepens across the group. Moisture loss accelerates. Recovery becomes impossible even during rest. Pauses now serve only to prevent collapse, not to restore function. One adult falters, dropping to its knees briefly before standing again. The delay is short, but it carries weight. Rising requires visible effort. Once upright, the individual resumes movement, but its pace is reduced. The formation compresses around it, sacrificing speed to preserve unity. This adjustment ripples through the group, slowing all progress. Calves show clear signs of exhaustion. Their heads remain low. their ears move less frequently. When they stop, encouragement comes only through proximity, bodies closing in, limiting space for rest until movement resumes. No additional support is possible. Carrying is not an option. Waiting is not sustainable. The environment offers no immediate threat yet. Pressure reaches its highest intensity. There are no predators, no storms, no sudden obstacles. The danger exists entirely within the margins of endurance. The desert does not intervene. It simply withholds relief. At this stage, decisions lose their strategic value. The outcome no longer depends on selecting the correct route, but on whether the remaining distance can be covered before physical limits are exceeded. Memory continues to guide movement, but its influence has narrowed. Even if the destination is correct, timing has become the determining factor. As daylight fades, temperatures drop slightly, offering marginal relief. The group extends movement into the evening, covering ground that would once have required far less effort. Progress is measurable but insufficient. Each kilometer gained costs more energy than the one before. The trade-off becomes unfavorable but irreversible. During the night, rest is fragmented. Bodies lie where they stop, exposed to cooling air that stiffens joints and slows recovery. Rising again takes longer. Coordination falters briefly before alignment is restored. The rhythm that once governed the journey has broken down into isolated acts of persistence. By morning, the condition of the group has changed fundamentally. Hydration levels are critically low. Muscles function at reduced capacity. Cognitive responses slow, affecting coordination and timing. There is no reserve left to absorb error. From this point forward, survival will not be determined by planning or experience. It will be decided by the narrow gap between endurance and collapse. Relief must appear soon, or loss will become unavoidable. The desert remains unchanged. It does not accelerate the process or obstruct movement. It simply maintains the conditions under which limits are reached. The group advances into a final stretch, where every step moves them closer to either water or failure, with no remaining capacity to alter the outcome. Relief does not arrive suddenly. There is no visible transition from scarcity to abundance, no clear boundary between danger and survival. The land ahead remains unchanged, offering the same muted tones and empty distances as before. What alters is the condition of the group. Their capacity to continue has narrowed to a margin so thin that even minor delays now carry irreversible consequences. Movement resumes at first light. The air is cooler, but the benefit is brief. As the sun rises, heat returns quickly, and the weakened bodies absorb it faster than before. Steps shorten, pauses increase. Coordination requires constant correction. The leading elephant maintains direction, but its pace reflects the limits of those behind it, rather than confidence in the route ahead. One calf collapses without sound. Its legs fold beneath it during a brief stop, and it remains down when movement resumes around it. An adult positions itself close, attempting to encourage motion through proximity. The effort produces minimal response. The calf rises partially, then settles again, unable to stabilize its weight. The group delays for several minutes, clustered tightly, reducing exposure but increasing heat concentration. Eventually, movement resumes without the calf. The separation is not deliberate, but it is final. Distance accumulates rapidly in open terrain. The calf remains where it fell, its body no longer contributing to the momentum of the group. There is no return. The energy required to reverse direction would exceed what remains. The journey continues with reduced numbers and increased urgency. The loss does not alter the environment or the distance ahead. It only reduces the group's capacity to manage further strain. Adults now operate closer to their physiological limits. Every action demands conscious effort. Even standing requires adjustment. Hours later, subtle changes in the land emerge. Vegetation becomes marginally denser. Insect activity increases. The ground shows faint signs of previous disturbance tracks, compacted soil, shallow depressions. These indicators do not guarantee water, but they suggest proximity. Movement intensifies slightly, driven by necessity rather than confidence. At a shallow basin, the leading elephant pauses. The ground bears the scars of past excavation. Trunks probe immediately, and digging begins without hesitation. Sand gives way to cooler sediment beneath. The process is slow, constrained by fatigue. After several minutes, moisture appears first as dampness, then as a thin seep. The response is immediate. The group crowds the site, competing for access without aggression, limited by physical positioning rather than intent. Water availability is minimal. It does not pool or flow. It seeps upward slowly, absorbed almost as quickly as it emerges. Individuals take turns lowering trunks into the shallow depression, drawing what they can. The intake is insufficient to fully rehydrate any member, but it stabilizes the group. Physiological decline slows. Breathing eases slightly. Movement remains difficult, but collapse is no longer imminent. Not all members reach the water. One adult arrives too late, its strength depleted beyond recovery. It remains standing at the periphery, swaying briefly before lowering itself to the ground. There is no attempt to assist. Space around the water source is limited, and priority is determined by proximity rather than hierarchy. The adult does not rise again. After hours at the site, the seep diminishes. Digging produces no further moisture. The group rests, briefly conserving what has been regained. The losses are now evident, but the environment remains unchanged. The desert does not acknowledge the reduction in numbers. It does not respond to survival or death. As conditions stabilize slightly, movement resumes. The group advances away from the basin, toward regions where additional water may exist. The pace is slower than before, constrained by cumulative damage. Recovery will take days, possibly weeks, if further resources are found. Survival remains uncertain. The individuals that continue do so without visible reaction to what has been left behind. The absence becomes part of the landscape, indistinguishable from countless other losses that have occurred here under similar conditions. No signal marks the end of the crisis. The desert does not close the event. It allows the consequences to integrate into the ongoing cycle. The journey proceeds with fewer bodies, altered dynamics, and reduced resilience. What was once a migration guided by memory has become a test of endurance, resolved only partially. Water has been reached, but at a cost that cannot be reversed. The environment resets nothing. It offers temporary reprieve without assurance of continuity. The desert remains capable of repeating the process at any moment, applying the same pressure until limits are reached again. Survival here is never permanent. It is negotiated repeatedly, measured in distance traveled and losses sustained. The group moves forward, stabilized but diminished, carrying the outcome of its decisions into the next stretch of empty land. The land absorbs what remains behind. Bodies that no longer move become part of the desert's economy, returning water minerals and energy to organisms that persist in its margins. Scavengers arrive without urgency. Insects follow. Nothing is wasted and nothing is preserved. Those that continue carry no visible record of loss. Their movement resumes under the same conditions that shaped the journey, governed by the same constraints. Water stabilizes their condition temporarily, allowing damaged systems to recover just enough to proceed. Full restoration is neither immediate nor guaranteed. The desert does not provide margins for error beyond what is required to continue. The routes ahead will differ, shaped by weather patterns, erosion, and time. Memory will adapt, incorporating success and failure alike. Future movements may avoid this path, or they may repeat it under altered conditions. The outcome will depend not on intention, but on alignment with resources that remain unstable and unpredictable. What unfolds here is not an isolated event. It is one instance within a continuous process that has no beginning and no conclusion. Survival in this environment does not accumulate. It resets with each journey, each season, each shift in the land. The desert persists, as it always has, neither hostile nor accommodating. It presents conditions and allows life to respond. Some movements continue, others end quietly. There is no balance to restore, no resolution to reach. Only continuity remains, the repetition of endurance, the testing of limits, and the silent accounting of what the land permits to pass through it.